Hi everyone and welcome back. Today we're going to create these delightful puff pastry bites featuring 3 different flavors. These appetizers are an excellent choice if you're in search of individually sized portions. I will show you 3 different flavors to choose from or to combine like I did. The first one is the shrimp one. The second will be the smoked salmon, my favorite. And the third is chicken. If you have guests who are gluten sensitive or wish to avoid puff pastry altogether, you can substitute it with a slice of cucumber. It's both tasty and refreshing. I would begin by lightly spraying a small muffin tin. I prefer to apply the spray and then use a paper towel to wipe off the top to prevent burning. Additionally, ensure that any excess at the bottom is removed as you don't want it to be overly saturated. Here we have a sheet of puff pastry, a fantastic ingredient to have on hand for your holiday gathering. I always keep these stocked in my freezer, especially during this season, as they come in handy whenever I need to whip up something quick, whether it's sweet or savory. Roll out the puff pastry until it's slightly thinner than what you find in the package. Remember to rotate the pastry as you roll in, and make sure your working surface is dusted with flour to prevent sticking. Here are 2 options to consider. You can either use a round cookie cutter or simply cut the puff pastry into squares. Personally, I enjoy doing both as it enhances the presentation and makes it more visually appealing than sticking to just one style. My cookie cutter measures 7 centimeters, making it ideal for a small muffin tin. After cutting the puff pastry, be sure to remove any excess flour from the flour side before placing it down in the muffin tin. Here is a helpful tip. Avoid stretching the dough. If you stretch it, one side may end up thicker than the other, which could result in uneven baking. One side might burn while the other remains uncooked. Instead, gently press the dough down and then press the sides to create a neat finish. As you may know, puff pastry consists of multiple layers. If you have any leftover dough, avoid rolling it into a ball. Instead, keep it flat in layers, as demonstrated in the video. Simply stack the layers on top of another and place them in a fridge to rest for later on to use. In the meantime, I'll go get the other sheet of puff pastry. Now I will demonstrate the alternative method, which involves shaping the dough into a square. Roll the dough out as we did before, making sure it doesn't stick to the surface. When working with the puff pastry, always rotate it 45 degrees as you roll it out. Let's proceed to cut our squares. Using a ruler is essential for creating perfectly shaped appetizer. I prefer to make mine 7 cm in each side. Remember the earlier tip? Don't stretch the dough. Remove all the excess flour, place that part down, and then gently press the dough into the muffin tin while keeping the edges elevated. This will ensure a beautiful presentation as well. I'm currently using a fork to poke holes in both the bottom and the sides of the puff pastry. It's important not to overlook the sides to prevent them from puffing up excessively during baking, as we need that space to add the filling. Taking the next step may require a bit of time, but it's definitely worth it. If you have some extra help, let them assist with this task. Cut small squares of parchment paper about 7 cm each. A helpful tip is to always crumple the parchment paper before placing it in. It ensures a perfect fit inside the puff pastry cup. I use this method for all my pies, even the large ones. For big pie, I always crumble the paper first, and then when you add the weight, everything will fit perfectly. Now, this option is only for square puff pastry. You want to make an egg wash. Mix together 1 large egg and 1 tablespoon of milk or 1 tablespoon of water. Then brush those tips that's coming out so it turns out golden after baking. In this instance, I opted for lentil due to their small size to use as a pie weight, because I believe that the larger pie weight that I have would not suit this scale. The result was fantastic. You can use pie weight if you have smaller ones on hand, or alternatively Any dry pantry item will work. Just make sure that whatever you choose is oven safe and won't burn. The puff pastry need to chill in the fridge while I preheat the oven to 400 degrees Fahrenheit, 205 degrees Celsius. It's essential for the puff pastry to be cold and the oven to be hot before baking. Bake the puff pastry for 15 minutes. If you enjoyed this content so far, I would greatly appreciate it if you could hit that like button to support me in creating more videos like this. Even a comment would mean so much to me. After 15 minutes, take the muffin tin out of the oven and carefully remove the pie weights or whatever you use to hold the puff pastry in place. This is where the parchment paper comes in handy. Simply empty the weight into a mason jar and you will have perfectly shaped puff pastry cups. Look at the big space inside to fill up with our amazing filling. Now we'll apply the egg wash to brush the inside and the sides of the puff pastry and return it to the oven for 5 minutes or until it turns golden brown. Once done, transfer it to the cooling rack and allow it to cool completely before adding the fillings. Here is a closer look at the circle and square puff pastry to give you an idea of their appearance. So let's work on the fillings. The first filling I will prepare is the salmon variety. For this recipe, gather the following ingredients: a small pack of smoked salmon, 85 grams, half a pack or 120 grams of cream cheese at room temperature, fresh chives if available. I particularly enjoy using chives with smoked salmon. 1 lemon, ranch cheese, and I will provide substitute if you can find it, and approximately 2 to 3 tablespoons of heavy whipping cream. In a food processor, combine room temperature cream cheese with a portion of the smoked salmon. Be sure to reserve some for garnish. I used around 3.5 slices. Next, add 45 grams of ranch cheese. If you don't have ranch cheese, feel free to substitute it with semi-hard cheese of your preference. Include half a teaspoon of ranch seasoning. Then I will add 2 tablespoons of whipping cream. Combine all the ingredients while gradually incorporating the lemon juice. Whip until you achieve a smooth consistency. At this stage, feel free to add more liquid if the mixture isn't smooth enough, or incorporate additional semi-hard cheese if it's too runny. The goal is to achieve a light, airy texture that strikes a balance between being too liquidy and too firm. It tastes fantastic due to the combination of salmon and spices, and the pinkish hue comes from the salmon itself. Simply transfer this to a container and allow it to cool slightly in the fridge while we prepare the remaining filling. You can absolutely prepare all the fillings the day before and let it sit in the fridge. The next filling features chicken. I will be using 350 grams of chicken that I cooked with onion. I seasoned it with garlic powder, onion powder, salt and pepper, and cooked it in some chicken bouillon. To simplify the process, you can opt for canned chicken breast. Just be sure to add some seasoning to enhance the flavor. I will also use half a pack or 120 grams of cream cheese at room temperature along with whipping cream to achieve the desired consistency. The chicken will thicken the mousse, so the whipping cream will help make it creamier and smoother. At this stage, feel free to add any additional seasoning or herbs to personalize the flavor. Blend all the ingredients together and refrigerate until you're ready to use it. For my next mousse, I'll be using shrimp, half a pack or 120 grams of cream cheese at room temperature, half a lemon, some whipping cream, and our ranch cheese. Here are 2 different options for preparing shrimp. You can either do like me by purchasing raw shrimp, clean it, and cook it yourself, or you can conveniently buy shrimp that is already prepared. I believe in making life easier, so choose the option that works best for you. I will leave all the tails on the shrimp while cooking. Once they are ready, I can select the most visually appealing ones for decorating And then I will remove the tails from the others to incorporate it into the mousse. So to prepare the shrimp, I just boil them in salted water with a dash of pepper. Now let's set the beautiful ones aside and focus on making the shrimp mousse. In the food processor, I've combined my shrimp, cream cheese, and about 1 teaspoon of freshly squeezed lemon juice. I'm using ranch flavored cheese along with a splash of whipping cream to achieve the usual smooth consistency. Once you achieve the desired consistency for the mousse, allow it to chill in the refrigerator for a minimum of 1 hour or up to 24 hours. One technique I enjoy using is a piping bag, as it adds a touch of elegance to our final appetizers. Now let's discuss the decoration. I will use the shrimp that we set aside earlier for the shrimp mousse, the salmon in chives for salmon mousse. I also brought some cucumber sliced to serve as a base instead of the puff pastry, if you prefer that option, or simply to add some extra colors to your presentation. Additionally, I have olives, tomatoes, and capers for the chicken mousse. I like using a piping bag to give the appetizers an elegant and visually appealing presentation. Using a piping bag will also assist in filling the puff pastry cup completely and prevent air pockets, allowing your guests to savor all the delightful flavors. Let's do the fun part. Decorate our appetizer. This will not only give it an elevated look, but will also allow your guests to identify the flavors of each filling. Simply using the shrimp for the shrimp mousse, tail on is even prettier. Salmon in chives for the salmon mousse. This is the perfect combination for salmon. I promise you that your guests will be impressed. Just be prepared to watch it vanish in under 10 minutes. When it comes to chicken mousse, I prefer to garnish it with capers, olives, and tomatoes. I steer clear of adding chicken pieces on top, as they don't present well after sitting for a while. Additionally, the tomatoes contribute to a lovely splash of color to the plate. The other option is to use slice of cucumber as a base, ensuring that everyone can join in, whether they are gluten-free or following a low-carb diet. This way, everyone can savor these delightful bite-sized portion of fluffy, melt-in-your-mouth bliss. Thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next video.